anybody have anything new that's dawned upon them in these last 13 hours since you woke up? Like, what are we looking at here?
I think it's so hard it's so big in so many different ways. Like, Mavs fans, I feel like, want to just retire from being a fan. There has to be something either with an injury or money-wise with the contract that Luka's up for. Like, I don't know. There's so many different avenues of just almost imagined pressure that the Mavs put on themselves from what I've read. Like, it doesn't feel like they really had any reason to go shop him out unless there's something.
That story said the biggest thing was that they were uncomfortable with paying him that $345 price tag for what his conditioning is,
and that don't make
which
sense.
Don't make no sense at all.
Hold on. I got something for that. Okay. Because in the same world where you can think of a player like Luka, and we all are like, a team he wouldn't go to is the Miami Heat. Why? Because they work so hard and they have certain minimum standards. When you have somebody that's your cornerstone for your entire franchise, you kind of expect them to uphold a certain standard themselves. So if they're going into every single year sluggish, and if he's actually 270 right now because he's hurt, things like that kind of show the writing on the wall for what his future might be, and maybe cutting his prime short and things of that nature, or not playing defense on the biggest of stages, things of that nature. I can understand that to a degree.
Nico Harrison got the job in 2021, if I'm not mistaken, right? By then, we already pretty much knew who Luka was. He was already having, starting to have the fluctuations with weight and all that type of stuff. But from the stuff I've been reading, as far as, him having a relationship with AD stemming back from, over a decade ago, even just, the comments he's made about, defense and everything, it almost seems like Luka wasn't really his type of guy, which to me is interesting because it's if that's not the type of player you want to build with, he's been making such an emphasis on having interior defense. And I mean, that's evident in the other moves they've been making too, as far as trading for Gafford recently and then drafting D-Lot. My thing is, if Luka isn't the type of player that you would prefer to build around, why would you even take that opportunity in the first place? And I feel like the stuff with his weight and defensive commitment and stuff like that honestly seems to me more of an excuse. He was just waiting for an opportunity to get rid of. Because money isn't an issue when it comes to a player like that.
You don't do that.
So
there's no circumstance or precedent where you do that at all.
Yeah, and even with new ownership taking over, I could kind of see if that was where the money thing comes into play, because it's not like Mark Cuban has any control over basketball operations now. Even if I'm taking over the Dallas Mavericks as a governor, I'm expecting to have to pay Luka $400 million in a couple of years. I don't understand.
Yeah, you write that into your budget for 10 years at least.
Right.
Just in case. And there's a pride thing when it comes to GMs. A lot of GMs stick by the guys that they actually draft. Fortunate as it is, LUKA Doncic wasn't his guy. So I've seen it play out on the Nuggets personally. Calvin Booth has the young Booth boys that he's drafted. He's sticking by them. They aren't going to be in any trade packages whatsoever, probably. We see it on such a large scale, and to have that happen with however you think about Luka, top 3, top 5 player. My main thought is, what kind of doors does this open for the rest of the league? Is there going to be a next big superstar out of nowhere? Are we going to start seeing more trades where there's just nothing leaking at all? They're keeping it really tucked to the chest. Is this going to enable someone to just give away their star because maybe they won't be the worst GM now that they do that, or they feel like it's okay for them to move on in that type of way?
Well, I just don't know why GMs would do this. I mean, if you're going to trade Luka Doncic, which doesn't make any sense in the first place, that's the kind of thing where you start a bidding war for him. You don't just approach one team and say, do you want Luka Doncic? And the deal finalizes within that night. 2 teams. I don't know which team said no to that. It would have had to have been.
Probably Spurs.
Spurs are.
Yeah, I'm thinking
Spurs
it's
are
Milwaukee.
talking about other.
Spurs or
The
Thunder.
reason I think it's Milwaukee is because Nico, when he was talking about AD, he mentioned he was he's the second best big in basketball aside from Giannis. And I'm okay, yeah. So you sent Luka for Giannis, and they said no.
You do have a point with setting a precedent of, I don't want to say selling high on stars. I think the package they got was super undervalued in the grand scheme of things for the future. I'm just thinking about the Paul George trade. You know what I mean? And that's a great example of them selling high on a star, even though he did ask out. that was his best season of his career. You sell high and you set up your future. Like their whole team is set up on that trade. And I could see maybe if the Mavs were trying to follow that precedent, but then you run into the fact that AD's a vet, and I just don't see what they're in the short term. I feel like they lose, and in the long term I feel like they lose in this trade. AD's still only got a few years in his prime, and I don't think he's impacted the game like Luka is, even though he is a better defender. Luka's just too good at getting the ball in the basket.
It's kind of hard to make sense of this whole thing because part of me still don't think it's real. I mean, it's obviously real, but it don't feel right.
Yeah, the teams done posted the graphics and everything. AD's on the Mavericks page now.
Oh,
It's like
They did
it
it.
just don't make sense though. Like you just traded a Hall of Famer that, in my opinion, hasn't even touched his prime or peak yet
25
for
years.
a 32-year-old.
who was just
And I'm gonna be honest, as of right now, they have the better team overall, but I don't see them winning anything with it. And for the Lakers, I'm pretty sure they didn't expect that call to come in. It just happened randomly. But I don't know. It's wild. Like, I don't really believe in conspiracy theories, but when my mom asked me about the trade, and I was like, what the fuck? Why are you asking me? She don't even watch basketball. But when she asked me, I was like, NBA ratings are going down. I got on my back. I was like, NBA ratings are going down. So you traded, you give the most clouded team in the world this 25-year-old that hasn't even touched his peak. It just sounded
With Bron.
Yeah, with Bron.
With Bron.
And Bronny. Fuck.
Yo, they're actually
Bronny.
they're making a playoff push. Bron and Luka are about to go to the playoffs together.
I'm
It's out
very
of nowhere.
curious to see
They're
that
going to be on
first
the same
season.
team for a playoff run.
That
They'll
shit
figure
is
it
so
out,
weird.
but I'm
And it's
very
like-
curious to see what they'll do.
Yeah.
The thing that pisses me off because like that Mavs team was fun as hell when they was fully healthy. Like I said it 2 days ago. I said if they see OKC again, they're going to beat them. OKC just doesn't have the pieces, in my opinion, to beat them. But just to ruin that because the nigga 270. Oh, we can't cuss. My fault.
I don't care.
All right, just to ruin it because he's 270. I don't know. And then the fact that like now he can't get paid $375 million is wild.